The Celtics made it a series against the Heat, but they lost 103 to 84 in Game 7 up in Boston Monday night. So let's get the day after vibes in Beantown from NBC Sports Boston's Tom Giles. Tom, thanks for coming back on, man. I wish it was under more positive circumstances. I'm going to just keep this first one simple, man. The floor is yours. What do you think went wrong for the Celtics last night?
They just played a totally different brand of basketball than what got them back into the series. You saw them play without pace, really struggle offensively. Jason Tatum tweaking his ankle probably didn't help, but again, missing threes. This has been a team that has struggled to win games when they shoot the ball that poorly from three, and they've really thrived when they shoot it extremely well. And last night was just one of those poor shooting nights that really killed them. And it didn't feel like they kind of had that same sense of urgency from the jump the way they did with their backs against the wall, in Game 5 and even in Game 6.
We spoke after Boston got their first win of the series. They were able to obviously force a Game 7. So what's the vibe like, man? Are you guys disappointed? You just give the Heat their flowers? Give us your overall impressions of the series.
It's disappointment, I think, and you have a lot of people wondering, is this group can they win a championship? But it's mostly, I think, disappointment. I think there's even some people that look at it and say they're not surprised because we've seen kind of this team, display some of these bad habits throughout the regular season and even the postseason. But for me personally, it was just disappointment. I never saw the scenario where the Celtics at home in a Game 7 we're going to end up basically pulling their starters, in the last few minutes of the fourth quarter because they're getting beat that badly. So certainly disappointed and surprised.
So before we go in and talk about the offseason, obviously the Heat moving on in the NBA Finals to play against Denver. They've pretty much been a menace to every single team that they've played. I've never seen an 8 seed do what they've done. How do you think that they're going to give Denver trouble?
It's the same way they probably gave Boston trouble. They're gonna muddy things up a little bit, and I will be interested to see how they try to defend Jokic. But otherwise, it's just they're not an 8 seed. I mean that's the other thing that I think we have to get to is that they're playing extremely well right now, and it's disappointed. As I think a lot of people around here were with the Celtics in Game 7. Miami rose to the occasion. I mean, their role players step up. Caleb Martin was nearly the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. They're just a team that's kind of playing with that chip on their shoulder, and they always have. And as much as we sometimes like to maybe make fun of the Heat culture thing, it works. They get the most out of guys who undrafted guys, and I know that the Nuggets are pretty heavily favored in that series, but I expect Miami to give them a pretty good run. I don't see why they wouldn't, at least push this thing past 5 games, make it a series.
Yeah, one of the hottest teams, well, the hottest team in the playoffs, and Eric Spoelstra, man, like every year this guy continues to be or make his case for one of the best coaches of all time. So now it's officially the offseason. I guess put on your GM hat or your head of basketball operations hat, your Brad Stevens. How are you going to handle this Jaylen Brown situation, and what else needs to be done for this team to have success next season and get over the hump?
I think that you're going to find a lot of different opinions for that question in Boston right now. But, if I'm Brad Stevens, you offer Jaylen Brown the Supermax and you sign him. And for me personally, I'm keeping this core together. And I think you could even look at the Denver Nuggets as being an interesting kind of case study for this. If you look at what, was being said about them last year after they lost to the Warriors in the first round, they just couldn't get over the hump with Jamal Murray and Jokic. And now here they are. They're in the NBA Finals, and they're heavy favorites to win the entire thing. So there is a level of patience that I want to see. I do think, though, that, as we talked about the other night, I kind of want to see them maybe add just a little bit of toughness to this group, just a little bit of grit, some of what you even saw from Miami. And I think even some of what you see from, a team like the Knicks, just a little bit of that edge that could probably help them in these 7-game series. But I'm not making any drastic changes. I think that, you're probably we had a report last night that it's mentioned that, you're probably going to see a few Celtics assistants. They're probably going elsewhere, which means that a staff that was probably already a little bit thin, given all the guys that have left in the last year, they're going to need to add some assistants as well. But I think Joe Mazzulla stays, and probably need to add some more experience, some veteran
Yep.
experience to that coaching staff.
Yeah, man, I think that's a great idea, especially when they've had the success. This core group has had that type of success. You can't just blow that up just like that. Tom, man, thanks again for joining us, my man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Brendan.